It's another special edition of Litter Media Live, and today we're going to talk about the National Day of Prayer. We have Alana Beverly with us, and also Reverend Shaun Howard. We appreciate them coming in. They were here last year to talk about the NDP, and we're going to do it again today, right after this from our friends at Kingston National Bank.
Our mobile banking app is changing the way we bank. Things are getting easier, transactions are getting safer, and you have access 24/7. All the functionality of banking you're used to, made easier to use, anywhere, anytime, and more secure than ever. Simple, seamless, safe. Download our Kingston National Bank mobility app today.
Welcome back, and the National Day of Prayer normally occurs every first Thursday of the month of May. And I don't know why so many of my fellow Christians forget that. Why is that so hard to remember?
I don't know.
Do you have the same thing in your churches?
Yeah, it's the holiday nobody remembers. There is Christmas, always Thanksgiving, but just, prayer. Yeah, when are we going to do that? So, but it does not rotate. It is the first Thursday in May.
Very good. Yep. If you could slide that microphone over this way a little bit. There we go.
All right,
make sure we're catching you there. All right, so first of all, let's jump into what happens, because you've got some preliminary events that will take place prior to what we'll do at noon in front of the Ross County Courthouse, and then we'll talk a little more about history and everything as well.
So this year, we are focusing a lot on schools and students, and so Wednesday night, we are having a worship night. It's going to be all youth-led. It's by, we have a group called Set Apart, and they are going to be leading worship. And we've got teens from the area that are going to be praying over, they're the mountains of influence. And so they will be praying over each of those mountains. And so that will be 6:30 p.m. at Chillicothe High School parking lot on Wednesday, May 1st. And then Thursday, bright and early at 6:30 a.m. The sun is set to rise at 6:31 a.m. on Thursday morning, and we will be up at Grandview Cemetery we normally just have prayer. It actually started, we had our team would pray the Wednesday before at sunrise, and I think last year was the first year we made it public. And we decided we moved it to Thursday and just invited the community to come. And because it's early, and I know I'm an early person, so it doesn't bother me, but I know the team every year is like, oh my goodness. But it's such a sweet time. It's probably one of my favorites because it's really sweet and intimate. And up at Grandview, it's beautiful. The view is gorgeous. And so we get to see the sunrise come up, and we're, praying together, and it's just really special. So we'll have that at 6:31 a.m. And then at noon we'll be at the courthouse steps.
Will the 6:31 event be at the gazebo?
We will meet at the gazebo. Last year we walked down a little bit, and so we weren't at the gazebo. We kind of walked down the path just a little bit and prayed there. But yes, we will meet at the gazebo.
You'll see a congregation of people, and normally you don't see a congregation of people at 6:31 in Grandview Cemetery.
Yeah. If you do, run, yes. Right.
But it's really cool that the kids getting involved on Wednesdays. And you mentioned the 7 mountains. It is 7, right?
Well, they changed it to 9.
Have they changed it to 9?
Yes.
What are those?
Okay. We've got.
Yeah, I have those, Dan, actually.
I know the media is one of them, and leadership for government.
Keep going.
Well, that's okay. You got it there.
Church, family, education, business, military, government, arts, entertainment, and media.
Okay.
Yeah.
So before, I think arts and entertainment were together. Mm-hmm. And military was not a part of it. And so they've separated those two, and then they've added the military.
Nice.
And then also I do want to add at noon on Thursday, we normally have pastors being the ones to pray over We have prayer over the elected officials, prayer over the first responders and healthcare workers. This year, we actually have school administrators from all over the community that are going. We have mostly administrators, some teachers, some admin couldn't make it, and so they sent teachers instead. But I think that's really neat because we have a lot of diversity. And then instead of a speaker, we have 3 students, one from Chillicothe, one from Unyota, I believe, and one from Adena, who will be sharing just brief testimonies of what God's doing in the public schools right now.
Yeah, and the public schools are a breeding ground, basically, for a lot of what is termed as sin. It was like that when I was in school, and it's been like that ever since prayer was taken out of school, I think. But I like the idea of having the school administrators or representatives involved in that as well.
And so it's one thing that makes me really excited because you hear so much negative about the public schools. And, I thank God for Christian school. My kids are both there. But the Lord is moving in public schools too. And so I think it's amazing to have leadership that is coming out and they're stepping out and will be the ones praying. And then also to have students from public schools be the ones to say, look, this is what's happening right now. This is what the Lord's doing. And so I think it's going to be a huge encouragement to people, and I'm really, really excited about it.
We have, in our teenage class, we've been studying about Micah here of late. And, of course, Micah was the prophet that was called and told to go and basically call the administrative people on the carpet for their evil doings and to return back to God. And having said all that, this is something that our government leaders have gotten involved with, and to create this National Day of Prayer. I'll let you handle the history of this, but I know they start the Congress sessions with prayer and everything else, but it's as if God's thrown out the door once that prayer is over.
Yeah, it's almost inviting men to have him leave. There's a rich history for National Day of Prayer in our country. From 1815 to 1863-ish, we really didn't pray from a national level down. And then everybody knows 1863, President Lincoln made, as only he could, that statement to, black, white, free, slave. We need to pray. We've had too much of God's blessings, his hand of providence on our nation, and he called us to prayer in 1863. Every president, not every, 36 of the last 46, including the current one, have issued proclamations for National Day of Prayer. But it was 1952, actually, when Harry Truman instituted that as a national law. And he said whatever day that the current president deems necessary. But President Reagan in 83 set it as the first Thursday in May, which we talked about earlier. So it's been that way since 1983. And so every president has issued a proclamation. It's so the mayors can issue a proclamation of saying that we need to pray. And the reason I love that is because, as I said earlier, prayer, it's not about having the right King James language. It's not about going through all these ceremonies. It's inviting God into what's going on. And I think everybody, whether you're Christian or not, can see we have to have somebody greater than ourselves to get us out of the mess that we're in. So it's an invitation, and that's what we're going to do on Wednesday night, is invite God into our current situation and trust him to do what only he can. It's a humility moment for us.
Mm-hmm. And that, I think, is something that's lost a lot in our worship. Once we give up self and begin serving others through his love and his grace, do we understand what this communication of prayer is all about?
Right. Yeah, it should be a conversation. Yeah. And it's not us giving our agenda. I think that's hard. It's hard for me. I can't speak for anybody else, but it's hard for me to not go to someone who I know can do something about it and say, this is my agenda, this is what has to be done. But
here's my Amazon wish list.
Yeah, that's not who we are. We're not
what
created to be that. But it comes so natural to us. And so submitting, humility, God, this is what I'd like to see. or this is what I think is a great idea. But at the end of the day, you're God, and I'm not, and I'm completely happy about that.
And people get and I've always said that not every Christian is at the same moment in their walk with God. Some still have yet to learn certain things, and we get so frustrated with one another. It's like, why can't you be a little more patient, with God? Well, we are not a patient person in that respects, but we have to let him lead us. And I know there's times where we don't understand what's going on in our life, but we have to, and it's okay to question God and say, why am I going through this? What do you want me to learn? And it's one thing to wait on that answer, but in the same respects, you have to say, but whatever the case is, I'm willing to submit myself to you and allow this to play out.
Exactly right.
And that's one of the toughest things to understand, I think.
And I think that there's a beauty to the diversity that National Day of Prayer offers. Picking up what Alana had said about diversity of school administrators. Please, you don't have to wait till this day to pray. We don't advocate that.
And it doesn't have to involve a school testing.
That is correct. You pray multiple times throughout the day. The thing about National Day of Prayer, and the reason that I think it's so precious that we need to really guard, is that we all get to be together from different walks of life, different situations, going through tough times. Our family situations are all different, but we're there together seeking one answer, which is, I know God can handle this. I learned early on in pastoring that, homogeneity, everybody thinking the same, looking the same, talking the same, is not the Holy Spirit's idea. Diversity is what God has always been after. And I think when we have days on the calendar that really promote that, we should celebrate those and come together and say, whether you're in administration, elected official, factory worker, school bus driver, we're all people trying to get home, and we're going to seek the same answer that God's able to do that. That's why I love this day.
Yeah.
We all have something. We've all gone through something, and I think one thing that we need to grasp is we go through these things. Sometimes it's God's judgment on us. Sometimes it's punishment, or it's something we need to learn so that we can help others benefit from what we went through. How often we've heard parents say, I'm trying to spare you from going through the pain and anguish I went through growing up, and they've tried to, but sometimes you have to let them feel that pain, that hurt in their heart, for them to know what it's like and to have value of what it's like to feel love.
So true. Yeah. And that will never make sense other than looking at it through the lens of God. Yeah. I remember, I'm sorry, somebody looked this up. The quote that I love is, when you can't feel God in the sunshine, you can hear him in the rain. Mm-hmm. And so, when everything's fine, sometimes we just disregard. But when it starts to rain, things start going downhill, it's like, oh, well, maybe I need to talk to somebody greater than myself. And so I think that's not that God delights in pain. Don't hear that at all. I think that he's still speaking even when it's raining, if we're listening. And so right now it's raining in our country, in our lives. I mean, we all feel that. And so God's not taken by surprise. He has an answer for Chillicothe, for Ross County, for Ohio. So let's just listen.
One of the patriarchs in our church always used to talk about how God allows these things to sift through his fingers before it reaches us. And it's what we do with it afterwards.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
So
yeah, I love that.
National Day of Prayer is coming up May 2nd this year. Again, Wednesday night, you'll have the special worship event down in Yoctangi Park for the kids.
Chillicothe High School.
Chillicothe High School.
Chillicothe High School parking lot. And it's actually going to be right when you pull into the parking lot. That building, it's like the athletic building and registration building.
Yeah, the Trent building.
Yes. It's going to be right there. And we'll have it blocked off so you'll know when where to drive to park. We'll have parking. So it'll be at 6:30 and then 6:30 a.m. on Thursday at Grandview and then noon at the courthouse steps.
Yeah, fantastic. Is there anything that we have not talked about that you wanted to share in regards to the National Day of Prayer?
I do. I want to say, to piggyback off what Shaun had said, that noon time, what makes it the most special for me personally, what I love is we have these leaders in our community that, some some you don't know, some you get to talk to, some you don't. And it's the one day of the year that we get to pray for them publicly. Yeah. And so, one of the things we do with the elected officials, with the first responders and healthcare workers, with the pastors that show, we have them come forward, and we have pastors there that are able to pray over them and, actually lay hands on them and pray for them. And we get to join together. And I just feel like it's such a way to honor and to thank them for what they do, because I know, they get a lot of our complaints. They get a lot of our, opinions of what they should be doing and what they are not doing right. But it's like the one time where we get to set aside time and just love on them and honor them and thank them and pray for them. And same with all of the other categories. And then even for the pastors to come up, and we have, faith leaders in the community that come up, and we get to pray over the pastors. And it's the same thing. You don't always get all the appreciation that you should. Same, but it's a time where we
get one day out of the year.
Yeah, thank you.
They get a little bit, but where we can come in and pray for the pastors and the leaders in our community. And I just think that, like I said, we all have a lot of opinions. We have a lot of complaints, but it's the one time that we get to put all that to the side and come together as a community and pray in unity. And I just think there's something so special and so powerful about that. Why wouldn't you want to come be a part of it?
Right. I have to admit, I struggled last year at the event because I was there working. So I'm capturing all of this with a camera, wanting to participate in the prayer and to help as well. So I may set my camera down this year.
Do it.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
do it.
But we can certainly pray quietly as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me just, if I have a minute, to say, I think we talked about this a little bit before. Other than Alana, who was always here as home, her background coming here. And so when I moved here 21 years ago, this has been our home. And I tell people all the time how special Chillicothe is. And I know you've talked about that, Dan, at length, about our city and our community, and everybody watching knows that. But unless you've been away and come back, you really don't notice how special this community is. The relationships, the potential for relationships is abounding in this city. And I think that's the favor of the Lord. There's no explanation for that. But I'm really excited this year for the youth, the teens, the schools, school administrators. I know we've talked about how special that is, but I really feel, as a pastor, just to kind of go off the road here, that what we all feel like is supposed to happen in Christianity, in the movement of faith, we've kind of stewarded that for generations, but this generation now, there's something special about the younger generation. As much flack as they catch, and they're out of sync, out of tune, whatever, I really feel like they're hungry for something authentic, not church as usual, authentic. And it may look different, sound different, but they're going hard after Jesus. And I have two that are teenagers, one that's married and already out of the house, but I see in them the idea that we want you to be there to support, but whether you do it or not, we're going to go after Jesus. And so that's what I'm excited about Wednesday night, is that they're going to show, with the specialness of this community, with the relationships that are possible, we're just going to invite Jesus to do what he can do. Yeah. And why not start here? Why not Chillicothe? Why not Ohio? This is where God can do something amazing.
Yeah.
Jesus was radical and pretty much turned the world upside down for a good reason.
Yep.
And there have been generations. The generation I grew up in, far different in its faith and belief.
Yeah.
Same God, he's not changed. But we're seeing this group of young kids who are starting to discover some things. Yeah. That just tells me we're getting closer to the end of time. And forget about all the stuff that's going on in the world. Watch what God's doing through our young people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he'll raise up a group that maybe we weren't what we were supposed to be as adults. Yeah. and they've been watching us, and they want something different, like what you said.
I agree. It's our generation that at times will have to move from charting to clapping. And that's a hard transition. You know, I don't have to be at the blackboard charting. Sometimes I just want to clap for this generation and say, go. You know, I'm on the sideline, go do it. And I think National Day of Prayer this year in particular is a place to showcase what God's already doing.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of work put into this. We appreciate the efforts you put together, you and your team, and I know people will be praying for this to take place.
We appreciate that.
Thank you, Dan.
Alana Beverly. I almost called you Beverly that time. I'm so focused on it. I've been calling her Elena all these years. I hear that I'm in good company with that as well. But to also Shaun Howard, thank you again for coming in today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching, and thanks to the Kingston National Bank for being our sponsor for today's edition of Litter Media Live.